a growing scandal involving Prince Harry and his last remaining genuine charity project, the Invictus Games. But is it really a charity project at all?
Australia has done a U-turn. They had previously cut funding for the Invictus Games, but now veteran backlash has forced them to bring it back.
Harry's heartbreak as the showbiz elite dump the Sussexes.
The wounded veterans reportedly paid for their own flights, their own hotel stays, and even their own equipment, while the high-profile names on stage were surrounded by luxury, private travel, and five-star accommodations. And that's before you get to the number that someone reportedly didn't want the public to see. By the time you hear all of this, you'll understand why so many questions are now being asked. It starts with a petition, because that's the issue putting Prince Harry under intense scrutiny right now. A petition is reportedly gaining attention with one clear demand: remove Prince Harry from the Invictus Games, not reform the organization, not launch a review, remove him completely. And the people supporting it aren't criticizing veterans. They say they're standing up for them. That's what makes this situation so striking.
I think that will be the beginning of the end for Meghan as a public figure, because this is a man that she's abandoned. Just awful. It will be shame on you, Meghan.
At the same time, according to reports citing a source said to be connected to Invictus, the royal family has allegedly made a decision about the upcoming Birmingham launch next month. Reportedly, no senior royals are expected to attend. Not King Charles, not Prince William, not Princess Catherine. The charity project that was often described as Harry's biggest success, the one many people viewed as a positive achievement, now appears to be facing difficult questions from every direction.
Invictus Games for Wounded Warriors, which sounds like the Wounded Warrior Games. And people think, oh, this must be great. And a lot of people are unclear how to read a tax return or to check stats. And so I think it was just very easy to say, oh, the Invictus Games, it's great. It does all this. And then, you know, you start looking into it and you're like, hey, what the heck is going on here? You know, those 535 competitors had to pay their own way. They had to pay their own housing for the games. They had to pay for their own equipment.
So what is driving all this concern? Critics point to the financial reports, and they believe the details raise even more questions than expected.
The $63 million Invictus Games spend into the mainstream media.
The most recent Invictus Games in Vancouver and Whistler reportedly brought together 543 wounded and recovering service members from 23 countries. On the surface, it's a powerful mission and an inspiring concept. But attention quickly shifted to the reported cost: $63.2 million. That works out to roughly $118,000 per competitor. Now compare that with other events. The Warrior Games in the United States, which also supports wounded service members through competition, reportedly operates on around $2 million annually. In Germany, a similar event was reportedly held for around $200,000, with roughly half the number of participants. So people are looking at those figures and asking the obvious question: if the mission is similar, why is the price tag so dramatically different? That's where the debate begins.
Some of the key lines from Paula's brand new and really jaw-dropping reporting this week. And of course, she's being very careful because we know how litigious Prince Harry can be. But this is really extraordinary stuff. So Paula reports, the most recent games held in Vancouver and Whistler in February 2025 brought together 543 wounded military veterans from 23 countries. The total cost, 63.2 million Canadian. Or approximately $118,352 per competitor.
Reports indicate that public funding contributed heavily to the event, including approximately $15 million from the Canadian federal government and another $15 million from British Columbia. However, critics say the funding structure raises questions because the money reportedly did not move directly to the games themselves. Instead, reports suggest it was routed through a separate corporation, which then paid a licensing fee to the British charity that owns the Invictus name, and the amount of that fee reportedly redacted from public view. Once people noticed that missing figure, they began looking more closely at the rest of the documents. And according to critics, that's when even more concerns started appearing.
I sense a cover-up. The Invictus Games Foundation, the British charity at the centre of the operation, recently filed its 2024 annual accounts with the UK Charity Commission after a 2-year grace period. The numbers, Paula reports, raised red flags. In 2024, the foundation cut its direct grants to veteran organisations by 63%. from £534,973 to just £200,328. The same year that foundation income rose 41%, a new six-figure executive role was added, and cash reserves grew to 2.3 million.
When the British Foundation eventually filed its 2024 accounts, reportedly after receiving an extended filing period, observers began examining the numbers closely. Reports claim that direct grants to veterans organizations dropped by approximately 63%, falling from more than £500,000 to roughly £200,000 in a single year.
Now, of course, Tom Bauer in his recent book Betrayal alleged that Invictus funds were directed towards private jets, five-star hotels, and transportation for Harry and Meghan.
At the same time, reports indicate that foundation income increased by more than 40%. A new six-figure executive position reportedly appeared, and cash reserves were said to have grown beyond £2 million. Those figures have become a major focus for critics who are now demanding more transparency about where the money is going and how it's being spent.
I don't think a lot of veterans actually are devastated. The reality is, if you go deeper into Invictus, a lot of veterans are actually more upset, asking where all the money actually goes to.
Read those numbers again carefully. According to critics reviewing the reports, the picture they see is difficult to ignore. They point to a year in which funding directed toward veterans organizations reportedly fell, while expenses connected to administration and operations appeared to move in the opposite direction. That's the contrast that keeps drawing attention. And the questions don't stop there. Reports indicate that legal fees increased from roughly £45,000 to around £155,000 in a single year, with critics saying there was little public explanation attached to the jump.
The foundation publicly claims that 92% of every pound spent goes towards charitable activities, a figure that technically falls within UK Charity Commission guidelines. But the term charitable activities includes the cost of running the games themselves, not direct grants or services to veterans.
Another point that has sparked discussion involves an American for-profit company that reportedly received close to £30,000, while some observers claim the filings offered very little detail about its role or services. Then comes a detail that many online commentators have focused on. According to reports, the accounts appear to show two different company registration numbers, one on the cover and another on the balance sheet.
The foundation's highest paid staff are earned between £120,000 and £130,000 above typical UK charity sector norms. Other interesting things of note: legal fees jumped from £45,000 to £155,000 with no explanation given. Deferred income ballooned fourfold from £431,000 to £1.799 million. An American for-profit company called June's LLC, with no description of purpose, received nearly £30,000 in 2023 and nothing in 2024. And the same filing contains two different company registration numbers, one on the cover page, another on the balance sheet.
Critics seized on that discrepancy immediately. Think about it for a second. People began asking how an organization connected to such a high-profile cause could reportedly end up with confusion surrounding something as basic as a registration number. Whether it's a simple error or something else, it became another talking point in an already heated debate. Now, the foundation has reportedly stated that 92% of every pound goes toward charitable activities. On paper, that sounds impressive, but critics argue that the phrase charitable activities can cover a wide range of expenses, including organizing events, venue costs, travel, accommodations, and production expenses.
Harry and Meghan came in for 10 minutes for an adoring love shot, and of course, Meghan kissed Harry. And it looked like it was good and full. It wasn't. So I think the public interest is waning. And also in this time of economic disparity, people really want to know where their money is going to. And there are lots of other places that actually support veterans, may give them prosthetics if they need, may build a wheelchair ramp at their home, which is necessary, may do things that really help people as opposed to helping Harry's ego.
They argue there's an important distinction between funding the operation of the games and providing direct financial assistance to veterans who may need specialized equipment, accessibility improvements, or other forms of support. For many observers, that's where the real argument begins. And that's where the focus shifts directly to the competitors themselves.
And how they're playing with the veteran money, because they're getting a lot of funding from countries and places to get this, what would typically be veteran support income, that then goes to putting on the Invictus Games. Now, again, I'm not trying to be, belittling what the Invictus Games is trying to do, but I am asking the question of, is it really the best use of veteran funding? Why can't Harry get his own funding? Why is he relying on all these countries to do it for him?
Reports have circulated claiming that many participating wounded and recovering veterans covered costs such as travel, lodging, and equipment through their own arrangements or support networks. Critics say that image has struck a nerve with supporters who expected more direct assistance for participants. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan have faced scrutiny over reports describing luxury travel, high-end accommodations, and expensive wardrobe costs associated with public appearances. One estimate frequently discussed online claimed Meghan's clothing expenses reached approximately $180,000, though such figures have been widely debated.
Oh, the Invictus Games, it's great. It does all this. And then, you start looking into it and you're like, hey, what the heck is going on here? Those 535 competitors had to pay their own way. They had to pay their own housing for the games. They had to pay for their own equipment. And Harry and Meghan got a really nice vacation out of it with lots of adorational speeches and clapping and crowds gathered for them.
Critics often contrast those reports with the sacrifices made by veterans attending the event. One supporter summed up that frustration by saying, "People donate for the men and women who sacrificed for their country, not for someone's designer wardrobe and room service." That growing frustration is a major reason the petition continues attracting attention.
Tom Bauer pointed out in his book during an absurd wheelchair basketball game, one team didn't even need wheelchairs while the other team did. It was America versus Nigeria. Nigeria needed the wheelchairs. And after the game, the Americans all stood up, got out of their wheelchairs and walked off. It's absurd. But also there was no one in attendance.
Then there's another story that keeps resurfacing whenever people debate the games. In Tom Bauer's book, a wheelchair basketball match between the United States and Nigeria is described in a way that generated strong reactions. According to the account, some American players reportedly stood up and walked away after the game ended. Supporters quickly point out that not all injuries are visible. Psychological trauma and other service-related conditions are real challenges that deserve recognition and respect. At the same time, critics continue asking questions about competitive classifications and how events are structured to ensure fairness for everyone involved.
Yeah, Australia has done a U-turn. They had previously cut funding for the Invictus Games, but now veteran backlash has forced them to bring it back. But I want to break this down because I'm not buying it, okay? Australian government has reversed its decision to cut funding for Prince Harry's Invictus Australia charity, with Veterans Affairs Minister Matt Keogh announcing that federal support will continue for another 3 years. As part of establishing the new veterans and families' well-being, we're transitioning funding for broader well-being support. Sounds wise. To the veteran community, to that new agency. As we transition, in order to maintain continuity and certainty of support services for our veteran community, we're providing another 3 years of funding to Invictus.
It's one of those stories that sticks in people's minds long after they hear it. Then there are the reports about attendance. Some critics have claimed that certain events appeared to have sparse crowds, with volunteers reportedly outnumbering spectators by a significant margin. Others have questioned whether camera angles and event layouts created a different impression on television than what people saw in person.
So it was really odd, but I do think that people are starting to cotton on. Again, when we look at the numbers of corporate sponsors lining up for Birmingham, there really aren't that many, and we don't know who they are. Only 11. Now, Boeing has, I believe, cut ties. I am doing that story for News Nation. It'll come out later today about how Boeing was the huge sponsor. The contract has ended and they are not re-signing.
And according to several accounts, Harry and Meghan's appearances at some events were surprisingly brief. Critics describe moments that reportedly lasted only a few minutes. A wave, a photo opportunity, a greeting for the cameras, and then a quick departure. Whether that's a fair criticism or not, it's another issue that continues to keep the debate alive. And if you think the questions stop with veterans and supporters, the next part takes the story to an entirely different level.
According to tax returns on file, the public picked up half the tab for Vancouver, with the Canadian federal government contributing $15 million through the Veterans Affairs Canada and the province of British Columbia contributing another $15 million through its Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Sport. The remaining funds came from approximately 40 corporate partners and about $2.6 million in individual donations. Crucially, that public money didn't flow directly to the Games. It was routed through the Vancouver Whistler Games Corporation, which then paid a licensing fee to the Invictus Games Foundation, the British charity that owns and licenses the Games brand. The amount of that licensing fee was oddly redacted.
This time, the spotlight reportedly falls on government funding and some very uncomfortable decisions. Australia has long been viewed as one of the strongest supporters of the Invictus Games. That's why reports that government backing was temporarily withdrawn caught so much attention. The timing made the situation even more dramatic, because it reportedly happened while Harry and Meghan were actively promoting support and enthusiasm for the Games.
Us, here in the UK, us taxpayer fools, are committing funds to this. I can't believe this. Paula reports the next Invictus Games are scheduled for Birmingham in 2027. The UK government has committed up to £26 million in public funds, despite the city effectively declaring bankruptcy in 2023. It only exited that status in February of this year. With roughly 15 months to go, Birmingham has just 11 unnamed sponsors contributing an estimated £4 million combined. Vancouver, by contrast, had Boeing and Atco as co-presenting sponsors and over 44 corporate partners. So basically, the British taxpayers are footing the bill because no corporates in the United Kingdom want to be involved with Prince Harry, as Dr. Sophie Chandoka of Centre Bali had previously made clear to him. Paula goes on, meanwhile, as I reported last month, the organisation is in a bit of disarray and qualified candidates were refusing job offers with the Birmingham organising team after learning it was Invictus, citing the organisation's reputation.
Think about how that looks from the outside. You're working to build momentum, encouraging people to get behind the project, and then reports emerge that a major supporter is stepping away. That's the kind of headline nobody wants to see. Now, some Australian observers have pointed out that support was later reinstated, meaning funding reportedly returned. But critics continue focusing on the original decision itself. Their argument is simple. If officials were willing to pause support at any point, what concerns led them there in the first place? After all, governments generally don't make funding decisions lightly, especially when veterans are involved.
Prince Harry's, yes, I got to be careful with the keywords. He's been under fire because of his African Parks charity, which, again, people have asked him to step down because of the rangers that are working the nonprofit organization in African parks have been accused of, SA and terrible things, torture in the Republic of the Congo. The indigenous rights charity Survival International alleged this week that wrongdoing by the parks was ongoing in the country and called on Prince Harry to resign as a member of the organization's board of directors. African Parks handles the long-term management of 24 protected natural areas in 13 of African countries in partnership with local governments. And the group was accused back in January 2024, which we reported on here, of funding these rangers who had committed human rights abuse, including...
That's why the debate quickly moved beyond public relations and into larger questions about value, accountability, and long-term sustainability. And according to critics, those same concerns may also explain why attention has shifted toward corporate sponsors. Take Boeing, for example. The aerospace giant was reportedly a major presenting sponsor for the Vancouver Games. Reports indicate that when its agreement ended, the company chose not to renew. Critics immediately pointed to that decision as another warning sign. For many observers, Boeing's involvement carried extra weight because of the company's long-standing connection to military aviation and defense industries.
For comparison, the US Warrior Games, a similar competition for wounded American service members, runs on roughly $2 million a year. Germany's Invictus-style competition costs about $200,000 and involves half as many participants. The public's taxes footed a portion of the bill.
That's why reports of its departure sparked so much discussion. Critics asked a simple question. If a company closely tied to military communities decides not to continue, what message does that send? Then people started comparing sponsorship numbers. Reports suggest that Vancouver benefited from more than 40 corporate partners. By contrast, Birmingham's upcoming games reportedly secured around 11 sponsors contributing an estimated £4 million combined. Critics argue that the smaller number has raised concerns about sponsor enthusiasm and confidence moving forward. And then comes the issue that has generated frustration among many British taxpayers. Reports indicate that the UK government has committed up to £26 million in public funding toward the Birmingham Games.
really was the fact, again, that this is, I think, where Harry is struggling. I think he felt that his presence just turning up, and this has been the problem almost now with Invictus for the last few years, that, you know, Markle turning up in Canada, rushing in at the last minute saying, oh, you know, I've been busy doing packed lunches. It's just focus about them. You know, I think people are fed up with the way that it's looking in Invictus. And I know this talking to some senior people there, you know, they're just thinking, well, where has this gone wrong?
Critics often contrast that figure with Birmingham's widely reported financial difficulties in recent years, arguing that many residents are already worried about local budgets and public services. That's where the debate becomes especially heated. Critics argue that if private companies are hesitant to contribute, taxpayers should not be expected to shoulder a larger share of the burden. Supporters, meanwhile, contend that the games provide benefits that extend beyond simple profit and loss calculations. But according to reports, another issue has emerged behind the scenes. Critics claim some qualified professionals were reluctant to pursue positions connected to the Birmingham operation because of the public controversy surrounding the Invictus brand itself. If true, that's a serious reputational challenge. It's one thing to struggle with funding. It's another to have people reportedly questioning whether they want their names attached to the project at all. And for critics, that's where the story expands beyond Invictus. They point to other organizations that have faced public difficulties while Prince Harry was associated with them.
But I think with the Santa Bali thing, clearly Harry is tone deaf or too frightened to tell his wife that, look, you are the problem. We need to step back. You know, this has now just become a celebrity thing rather than looking at the true cause, which is to celebrate, honor, and really, you know, sort of inspire the veterans. I love them. I think they're, and I'm not just saying that, I genuinely think, wow, you know, when you're fed up, if you watch some of those poor people, and I don't mean poor in a nasty way, but you know, what they've gone through, and they get up, you think, get on with it. If they can do it, you can. These people are inspirational. All the men and women of Invictus and all those services who've gone through terrible things, you truly are. Of course, it's been hijacked.
Santa Bailey, the charity he co-founded in honor of his mother, became the subject of highly publicized disagreements, leadership disputes, legal proceedings, and resignations that attracted significant media coverage. African Parks has also faced controversy following allegations and concerns that received widespread attention. Critics have questioned Harry's response and level of public engagement regarding those issues, while supporters argue the situations are more complex than they are often portrayed. Regardless of where people stand, critics say they see a recurring pattern. They point to projects that begin with strong public support, but eventually become overshadowed by disputes, leadership conflicts, resignations, or ongoing controversy. And that's why, for many observers, the scrutiny surrounding Invictus has become about much more than a single event. It's become part of a much larger conversation that shows no sign of fading anytime soon. Even the recognition surrounding Harry has become part of the controversy. When Prince Harry reportedly received the Pat Tillman Award, named after the former NFL player who left professional football to serve in the military and later died in combat, the reaction was immediate. Supporters praised his work with veterans, but critics pushed back hard, arguing that the honor should have gone to someone else. The debate quickly spread online. Some critics claimed Harry was being recognized more for his public profile than for direct involvement on the ground. Their argument wasn't necessarily that he performed the role poorly. Instead, they questioned how much of the day-to-day work he was personally responsible for.
Meghan and Harry, as you know, put out this thing earlier this year, basically saying they'd like His Majesty the King, the Royals, etc., Invictus, Birmingham. And recently they put out something about some sponsor and all of that, you know, because it's flagging, let's be honest. Invictus, Birmingham, you know, I wish them all the best, I genuinely do, but, you know, this country right now, we're just running out of money at the rate of knots. And it's all down to the government, whichever way you want to say it, it's down to bad spending and bad chancellorship, which is Rachel Reeves.
Others disagreed, pointing out that Invictus likely would never have reached its current scale without his involvement. But regardless of which side people took, the award became yet another flashpoint in an already heated discussion. And according to ongoing reports and commentary, that growing scrutiny may be one reason questions are now being asked behind palace walls as well. Reports have suggested that Prince William and those connected to the Royal Foundation are focused on transparency and accountability. Critics claim the message is simple: show the numbers, explain the finances clearly, and answer the questions being raised. Whether those reports are accurate or not, they continue to fuel speculation about the relationship between the monarchy and the games. Some commentators even argue that the reported absence of senior royals from future events is less about personal disagreements and more about avoiding association with ongoing controversy. That's the theory being discussed by critics, at least. But the conversation doesn't stop with Harry. According to critics, Meghan's public image and business ventures have also become part of the wider debate. During visits to Australia, including appearances connected to communities affected by tragedy and visits with hospital patients, some critics later accused her of benefiting from publicity surrounding the outfits she wore when similar items became linked to online promotion and consumer interest. Supporters argue that's a common reality for public figures and celebrities. Critics, however, viewed it very differently, and the criticism gained attention because of the emotional nature of those events. Meanwhile, Meghan's lifestyle brand has also faced heavy online commentary.
The failure of As Ever is simply impossible to ignore, and more people are picking up on this. Because Meghan Markle made such a fuss about her business, because she had to go endlessly on and prattle on about how great As Ever was doing, how it sold out its first couple of launches, of course that brings a lot of attention to the brand. And as the brand continues to flatline, it's bringing a lot of attention to that as well. And Jack Royston of Newsweek has revealed something rather interesting. However, I feel like he's missing sort of the bigger issue because he sees a somewhat causation between the decline in Meghan Markle's popularity and the decline in website traffic and likely sales to her brand. But I actually think her popularity probably doesn't have a huge impact on what's happening with As Ever. It has more to do with simply bad business practice.
Critics have claimed that some product launches failed to meet expectations and that certain items generated more discussion than demand. Among the products frequently mentioned are candles and other home goods that became the subject of intense debate online. Some critics pointed to reports of premium pricing, while others questioned product quality after customer complaints surfaced on social media. Whether fair or not, those discussions quickly became part of the broader narrative surrounding the brand. There was also controversy over references connected to family themes and personal milestones. Critics argued that certain branding choices felt overly personal, while supporters viewed them as harmless touches designed to make products feel more meaningful. As with many aspects of this story, reactions were sharply divided. Another incident that drew attention involved reports that a gift package was sent to a supporter who had previously posted criticism of Prince William and Princess Catherine online. Critics seized on the story immediately, arguing it reflected poorly on Meghan's public image. Supporters, however, questioned whether the significance of the incident was being exaggerated. And that's where many commentators believe the bigger question begins. According to some critics, Harry remains deeply connected to the charitable side of Invictus and continues to care about its mission.
A new chocolates for Mother's Day, new candle scents for Mother's Day, and now matches. Guys, popularity is not the problem. It's her complete and utter inability to come up with new products. That's the problem. I would not, if I was advising Meghan, I would not go, oh, honey, if you could just be more popular, your products will sell. That's not the problem. Popular people launch brands that fail all the time. Don't think about the popularity. That's actually not the make it or break it here. It's the products in the brand. I'm telling you right now, if Meghan Markle created gangbuster products, her likability would not matter in selling. The products are bad. And when the products are bad, guess what? You can't move them. And the best you can do is ship a box of your products to one of your biggest fans who craps on the royals all the time and count that as a win. That's lame. That's really, really lame.
They argue that many of the strongest complaints emerge when the spotlight shifts away from veterans and towards celebrity culture. Whether that's a fair assessment or not depends entirely on who you ask, but it's a claim that continues to surface whenever the future of the games is discussed, and the theory gaining traction among critics is uncomfortable. They argue that Harry either doesn't recognize the scale of the problem, or he's unwilling to confront it directly and say, we need to step back. That's why one suggestion keeps popping up again and again. Then there's what some insiders are reportedly saying behind the scenes. According to ongoing commentary, there are concerns that the priority right now is simply getting through Birmingham successfully. Some reports suggest that people involved with the organization want to deliver the games first and deal with the bigger questions afterward. So look at where things stand today. The petition is still generating attention. Senior royals are reportedly keeping their distance. Boeing reportedly moved on. Questions have been raised about government funding, sponsorships, and the future direction of the games, and critics argue that the one decision that could potentially change the conversation is also the hardest one to make. No matter what happens next, Harry is still expected to be front and center in Birmingham. Because according to many observers, not showing up simply isn't an option. The real question isn't whether Harry walks into Birmingham this summer. The real question is, what kind of future will be waiting for the games when he gets there? And don't forget to subscribe to Crown Clash. I post a new video every single day.